A surge in patriotism. It's a common phenomenon during times of war, but the rapid advance we've been seeing recently of Islamist militants in Iraq is forcing many Americans to re-examine the 8-year war the U.S. and its allies fought in the Middle Eastern country.
Nearly 4,500 U.S. service members died in the conflict, along with tens of thousands of Iraqis. Now, some U.S. veterans of the war are reflecting on the sacrifices.
VOA Midwest correspondent Kane Farabaugh examined the impact of the war in the U.S. state of Illinois. Kane will join us in a moment, but first, let's take a look at some of his reporting.
Paris, Illinois is a patriotic town, awash in red, white, and blue. American Legion Post Commander Tom Knowles says it's been that way since the Iraq War began in 2003.
Instantly, the flag sails went up. You've seen flags flying everywhere.
Knowles says while the patriotism has not faded, the mood did change in 2004 when news of the mounting casualties from the town's Illinois National Guard unit, the 1544th Transportation Company, started filtering in.
5 right here from our unit, just right next door, just all at once. That was a real shock.
And Kane Farabaugh joins us now from Illinois. He is standing in front of the Mideast Conflicts Memorial Wall in Marseilles, one of the largest memorials in the U.S. honoring service members who have died in the Middle East.
Hey, Kane, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us something. What struck you about what these veterans and their families told you about what they feel now about the war in Iraq?
Well, what struck me the most is that there is not a lot of resentment towards the Iraqis. I think that family members, as well as the veterans that served alongside those that paid the ultimate sacrifice, many of them told me that they only wish they could finish the job. They wish that there was something that they could do in order to make sure that all of the work, all of the sacrifice that was put into the 8-year-long war had some result in the end. I think there's a lot of people who are sort of anxious about what it means, the destabilization that's going on there now. Many don't want to return, but those that were in uniform that had already served in Iraq told me that if they should be called, they're ready and they're trained and they're able to help the Iraqis stand up on their own.
And can you mention these sacrifices? Of course, some very emotional accounts here from people who lost loved ones in the war. One of the men you spoke with told you about the significance of the war mission for his son who lost his life in Iraq. Let's go ahead and roll that clip.
Michael's proudest moment, he told me they were guarding a polling site during the elections, the Iraqi elections. He said his proudest moment was seeing those Iraqis walking around with that blue ink on their finger. So that was his proudest moment.
Kane, it's such a difficult moment. Tell us a little bit about Corey Thompson, and also tell us a little bit about where you're standing.
Well, it's interesting. When I first went up to where all these motorcyclists were, I saw a gentleman who had a necklace or an identification badge around his chest. And I saw there was a gold star, and immediately I knew what that meant. That meant that he had a son or a daughter that died in combat. And so I approached him, and as a correspondent, you're always kind of nervous to sort of do this. You don't want to tread on anybody's feelings. You don't want to upset anybody. But I definitely wanted to talk to him about why he was coming to this motorcycle freedom run and why it was important for him to be there. And as soon as I went up to him, he was extremely gracious. He was very open. He was very kind to me. And he was very willing to tell me about his son. His son died in a helicopter crash near Talil Air Base, and obviously for him it was devastating. But in some ways, his son's death has sparked a new life for Corey Thompson, in which he is a Gold Star father now, and he advocates for Gold Star families, talking about what it's like to lose a family member in combat and what those sacrifices mean. And so he was extremely willing to talk to me on camera, and it's one of the few times in my career where in the course of interviewing somebody, I got a little emotional. It's hard not to, feel sorry for him, especially when he seems to have kindness, graciousness, openness, and forgiveness in his heart as you're talking to him. I didn't detect the least bit of anger or resentment, and so I think for me it was definitely an emotional but rewarding experience to talk to him. And to put it into perspective, I'm standing next to a wall that has thousands of names on it on these different panels here. And each of these names has a Gold Star mother or a Gold Star father somewhere out there who has a similar story to Corey Thompson's. And to know that this is the cost of war. These are the sacrifices made in the name of freedom. These are things that are emotional to anybody who comes to visit these sort of memorials. This one just happens to be one of the largest in the U.S., specifically focusing on those who lost their lives in the Middle East. But during a holiday season like the 4th of July or Memorial Day, you see memorials like this generate a lot of interest, generate a lot of people coming to visit, and you see a lot of flags waving, a lot of patriotism. But when you're standing in a place like this, you also see a lot of tears.
Of course. Well, Kane, thank you so much for your reporting, for coming to us on location, on assignment today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.